properly. Welcome to Conversations with Sarah. I'm Sarah Redden, and today I'm the guest. So today is a really special day. This is the 52nd podcast. This is the 52nd episode of Conversations with Sarah. So I thought that I would take the opportunity today to reflect on the last year and thank you all for listening, and thank the people that have come along and shared with me their stories of hope and healing, explained the different therapies that they've done, and just take a moment really to mark this occasion. So I would really like to thank you for listening. If you've listened from the beginning, hopefully you will have witnessed the evolution and the change that has happened as we've gone along. When I first started the podcast, I started the podcast through the lockdowns, and it was because I was missing having these types of conversations with people, being able to find out about different kinds of therapies. Life had slowed down not for everyone. Life had slowed down for many people in the type of bodywork professions, the talking professions. Some people, it got really busy. But I was really missing that kind of connection, that in-depth kind of conversation, and really felt like people needed some hope and inspiration, some healing stories to help them navigate through some of the stuff that was going on in the world. And it really started from a place of having no clue what to do. And I will confess, I don't think I've said this before on the podcast, I had never listened to a podcast before I started doing the podcast. And I didn't really kind of know what it is that it was supposed to be. But as with many things that I do, I just felt this pull to do it and wanted to create it in a way that felt authentic and organic for me. So I was very, very lucky. If you've watched the pilot episode, you will see that fellow coach, Georgina, joined me, and we had a conversation around coaching. And it wasn't entirely an awful experience. I am quite a naturally introverted person. I am quite a shy person, and I'm usually quite selective in who I share my inner world with. So stepping into the realm of podcasting was a really, really uncomfortable space for me to be talking on camera, to be recording myself and sharing it out there into the world for anyone to listen to is not a natural place of comfort for me. But my need to and my desire to share these types of conversations with other people so that they may find something to be hopeful for when they're going through difficulties times, or for people who are just interested in knowing about the kind of stuff that we talk about, to have the opportunity to listen to these conversations and to listen to the type of people that I was connecting with just far outweighed my own discomfort in having this types of conversation. So I was very lucky that Georgina agreed to come on and do a pilot with me. And after doing that, I popped a little advert out in a couple of places on Facebook and was inundated with people who were interested in coming along and speaking with me. If you go back and listen to some of the first episodes, you'll see that I played with adding intros and outros. I very quickly realised that was quite hard work for me to do and took up so much time that I stopped doing that. And now we've got this very, what I hope comes across as relaxed conversational format where my guests come and join and share with me topics that I may know a little bit about, or I may know a lot about, but they share their perspective around and come and share personal stories of hope and healing to help inspire whoever is listening to know that if you are going through something difficult, if you're going through a similar difficulty, that there is somebody out there that understands what you're going through, that has been through similar and has got to a place where they've been able to access support or move through it. Because I want you to know that there is hope, that as you go through these difficulties in life, that there is something on the other side of that, and that you can find the hope and the healing that you're looking for. So that really is how Conversations with Sarah started. And there's been challenges along the way. It has taken quite a lot of time to connect in with the guests and to create the podcast, even with the very limited amount of editing that I do, because I don't, the conversation is as it is. I don't really remove anything, only if we have like real technical difficulties. And I just kind of allow it to be as it is, because I think it's really important that we have these real conversations and you are able to witness it. So I hope that you have found these useful, and I've started to get comments now on YouTube, and people do occasionally message my page, Sarah Redden, on Facebook with feedback, and I love to hear feedback, whether that be areas you think I could improve or things that have been helpful to you to listen. So I'm so thankful to everyone that takes time to listen and to support and to be a part of Conversations with Sarah. And personally, from doing this podcast, I've created the Connect group that a lot of the podcast guests have come into, and other wellbeing practitioners and heart-led entrepreneurs. And we connect and we network and we collaborate, and there's a real kind of beautiful energy in there and space for practitioners that work in the similar kind of field to me. So if you're a practitioner listening and you are on Facebook, you can come and get involved in that space. It'll be in the show notes. We would love to have you on board. If you're listening along and you're thinking, I'd love to be a guest on Conversations with Sarah, I am currently organising season 2. I generally get booked. I've been getting booked quite quickly with guests. So if it's something that you're interested in, please do reach out to me on the SRTT self-care page, which is me with blue bobbed hair. Send me a message and I can give you more details of how to become a guest. So a little bit about me and my self-care journey. If you've listened to all of the episodes, you will have heard little bits of what's gone on for me. So I do have a chronic health condition that I've been diagnosed with, that I have used a lot of the therapies and therapists that I talk to. I've used the therapies to support me in my self-care. And that really is how my business became what it is now, because I recognize there are times that I don't support myself in my self-care, and I put my need to support other people above my need to support myself. And I realized that needed to change. That very much needed to change. So I've created my business in a way to support my self-care whilst also supporting other people's self-care. And we have a beautiful community of SRTT Self-Care Journey group on Facebook that is for my clients and for the people that are connected in with my courses, my membership, and my one-to-one clients. And I share a little bit in there as well about kind of what goes on for me. So as I say, I was diagnosed about 7 years ago with a chronic health condition. And at that point, I was practically bedridden. I wasn't really able to do a lot. I went from working every day doing like body work and coaching work to not being able to work at all. And that was a really difficult time. Part of that for me, I was completely dismissed by quite a few doctors who wanted to diagnose me with depression, despite the fact that I had physical symptoms. You could see I had a big lipoma lump on my shoulder that I was telling doctors was painful, was causing me pain. I didn't realise the systemic pain that I was experiencing was also part of other things that I later went on to be diagnosed with. And no one looked at it. They just kept telling me that I was depressed and offering me antidepressants. And I'd been through a period of depression in my life, and I knew that this wasn't what depression felt like or looked like for me. And I also knew that I had not manifested a lump on my shoulder, that that was real. It wasn't in my mind, yet no one would look at it. Eventually, a doctor did take me seriously. A doctor did listen to what was going on for me. It helped that one of my siblings was going through some health issues as well and had received some diagnosis. So I was able to present that evidence to the GP of things that were potentially occurring for me because there being familial links. And they actually looked at my shoulder, and I was sent for surgery and had that removed. And luckily everything was fine with that. It wasn't anything serious. And that led to me being sent off to a specialist and having more kind of tests and things done, being given my diagnosis and being told that this is your diagnosis, you need to accept that this is how your life is going to be now. And that for me just didn't feel okay. It didn't feel okay that there was no hope, there was no possibility of anything being any better. And also being told that we don't really kind of have a treatment plan for you. Here's some painkillers, off you go. So I probably haven't mentioned, so I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and ME. And I was told, this is it, just get on with it. You have to accept that you cannot change this, and these painkillers will help manage the pain, and you can do graded exercise, and you can do this, that, and the other. And it just didn't feel right for me. It just didn't feel right, the idea that there was nothing that I could do. There was no hope or possibility for change, that this was it. Even though they didn't completely understand why I was ill or what fibromyalgia is. For those of you who don't know, it's an umbrella term for lots of symptoms. And more symptoms came up, and I spent a year going around the hospital, being sent from one specialist to another, having scans and cameras in places and blood tests and all of these other things, and being offered different surgical interventions or medicine interventions, but also alongside that being told, we don't really know if this will help you. We don't really know what the problem is, but this might help manage some of the symptoms. And for me, that just wasn't okay. It just wasn't okay. So I started to be curious about what my body might be trying to communicate with me. What things did I have control over? How could I impact my own health? What changes could I make for me to support my wellness? And I used the things that I had learned along my journey, and the stuff that I used to tell clients was like body work. And I started to explore more around kind of, my own trauma, the stuff that I'd been through, the things that I did that weren't in my best interest, my thoughts about the world. I explored and learned about meditation, having been someone that kind of didn't really think that meditation would be something I could do or be helpful for, because I have a very busy mind, and I didn't really see how I was going to be able to find space to have a quiet mind. But me being the way that I am, I set about doing training and learn about meditation, learn to be a meditation teacher. And that's really helped me create spaces of mindfulness in my own life. And I had to stop working, I had to stop doing body work, I had to stop counselling people for a period of time, because part of my symptoms meant that I would lose words, the more fatigued I got, because I got fatigued very, very quickly, I would sound drunk. And that's not really what you want from a counsellor, is for them to not be able to be present in the room with you, and not to seem like they are in full capacity and full capability. And it just didn't feel okay for me to do that kind of work anymore. So I stopped doing work that I loved, and took some time where I kind of didn't really do anything other than focus on me. for about a year. And then I supported my husband, my then partner, my husband, in following his dream. And in supporting him in following his dream, I started to do things that I enjoyed again. Started to be able to be more confident in my own ability to do things. And I started recognizing there were certain things that I needed to do to support myself, to be able to support him in the business that we set up. And from there, it's just got better and better and better for me. So that doesn't mean that I don't have symptoms. I absolutely have times where I'm very symptomatic. I certainly don't live life the way that I did beforehand, but that's a good thing for me, because beforehand, I did not necessarily live a life that was in my best interest. And that is stories for another time. They're big stories for some of the experiences that I've gone through that have not supported my wellness. They're big stories that I may or may not share at some other point in my life. For right now, they're not parts of my self-care journey that I feel okay with sharing all of. So I've used the tools that I use with my clients now. I've used those to support my self-care journey. I've used the tapping to help my nervous system relax. What I discovered was that I was on high alert constantly. I was holding my body extremely tense. I would jump if somebody walked into a room. I would kind of be in a state of anxiety, but because that had become my normal state, I didn't really know that until I was no longer needing to be in that state. So as I started to kind of fall into a space of being much happier about life, being in a space where I was doing things that I wanted to do, this is before diagnosis, I kind of was relaxing and sort of learning to kind of be a bit more chilled out. It's almost like my body went, oh, okay, so we don't need to be on high alert anymore. We don't need to be completely stressed out anymore. And it just sort of gave up on me. It just broke on me. And through my recovery, I sort of realized that anytime I felt any kind of tension, anytime I felt any sort of uncomfortableness, anytime I felt any perceived threat, everything would tense up and my adrenaline would be running and I would be in that really fight or flight situation. And I needed to learn how to relax myself, even when it wasn't particularly relaxing around me, because my body just automatically went into this really kind of hyper vigilant state of fight or flight. And I needed to learn to get into the rest digest space. So that's where meditation helped. Hypnotherapy absolutely has helped. The tapping has helped. And to support me and to support my clients, I really wanted to kind of bring that. I know there's so many women that have reached the stage of life that I got to, where they realized that life was not working out for them in the way that they wanted it to be and that they needed to make change. So I wanted to help other people because that's a driver for me, helping other people. But what helping other people now means, I also focus on helping myself, because I can't help other people if I'm not full. I can't help other people if I'm not looking after me, if I'm not walking the walk, I'm just talking the talk. So that's a little bit about kind of what went on for me and what got me to the point of realizing that I needed to look after my self-care. And that's why I'm so passionate now about educating, enabling and empowering other people, women especially, to really focus in on their self-care, because I don't want other people to have to experience what I went through. I don't want other people to need to burn out before they take time to look after themselves. So if you take nothing else from the podcast, please, I hope that you take that it's absolutely not only okay, but important to look after yourself. It is important to prioritize you, to prioritize your needs, to support your self-care, to live in your what is good for you, to nourish your soul and to fill your cup up. Because then when you do that, you can come from a place of fullness, of love, of joy, of connectedness with the people around you, and not from a place of frustration, depleted, exhaustion, because it's better for you and it's better for the people that are around you. So I hope that that is something you're experiencing from the podcast. This is the first time that I've ever just talked to myself. This is not scripted, as you quite probably can tell. And I'm not entirely sure what I've talked about. So, or even how long that I've talked about things. But I've just really want you to kind of have a sense of me and why I started the podcast, part of my sort of journey into recognizing the importance of self-care, not just as a theory, but as an actual life practice. And hope that you continue to listen and get involved and get connected. So you can find me, Sarah Redden, on Facebook. I have a page for my business, and all the podcast episodes go up on there, and that is at SRTT Self-Care. It's on most social media platforms. You'll be able to find us with that handle, but specifically Facebook is where I kind of hang around. And you can find out more about the Self-Care Club and the services that I offer at srtt.co.uk. And I absolutely do love getting feedback from you about your experience of the podcast and how, if you've got questions or if you wanted to be able to connect with a guest and you can't find their social media handles to get in touch with them. So please do get in touch. And I think this is me finished for now. So as always, please be kind to yourself. Go through life with curiosity, have fun, play, find the pleasure, find the joy, find the fun in the things that you do. Allow yourself to make mistakes and allow yourself to create a life that absolutely prioritizes you and fills you up. So I will be back next week with a new guest. And we will also be starting to record live in the Self-Care Journey Facebook group that I have. So if you are in there, you will be seeing the podcasts as they're recorded live a few weeks before they come out onto the other platforms. So as always, take care of yourself, be curious, stay curious, and be kind to yourself. And I will be back next week with a new guest. Bye.